What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of StoryHive On Location, Vancouver, with beats, eats, and more!
Committed.
Yes, I am your host, Kazi. We are broadcasting live right now from Nora Vera Studios, out here on the unceded ancestral lands of the Musqueam, the Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish First Nations. Big shout outs to TELUS STORYHIVE for powering today's episode, which so happens to be our final episode for season 4, Crazy Town. Show's been going on since 2023. We have been capturing the stories of creatives, artists, chefs, musicians, dancers, and I'm very excited for this next guest, who is also a fellow dancer. Her name is Olivia Boon, a Vancouver-based dancer and creative focused on Campbellocking, a funk dance born out of the Soul Train era in the 1970s. Within the Campbellocking community, she is an active event organizer, community builder, and a member of the Vancity Lo crew. For us in the street and club dance community, we may know Olivia for her marketing savvy with Ladies First YVR Jam, or her infectious energy hosting parties like Morning Disco. Aside from all these roles, she is also a tech product manager, mom to Joby the puppy, and my fellow Southeast Asian sister, Malaysia in the house. Let's go, la!
Let's go. Let's go, la!
That's it.
Let's go.
So as you know, on this show, we dive into creative journeys of each person who sits down on this seat. And I would really love to start from your very early beginnings. Tell me more
Baby
about
days.
your international journey growing up and how your creative gifts were fostered.
Yeah, so I am from Malaysia, from Kuala Lumpur, like Kazi mentioned. But I was actually born in Jakarta. So I was born in 1995, aging myself. But I lived
Still
there
a baby.
until 1999. So my parents were working there. And when I was 4, there were these riots in Indonesia. And so they just wanted to leave and go back to Kuala Lumpur and just be able to settle myself and my brother, who my mom was pregnant with at the time, back in Malaysia. So we traveled back, and then I lived there until I was about 14, 15. So a lot of my younger years growing up there, I was really exposed to, classic Asian stuff, piano class, violin class, right? Like
I'm like, check, I did that.
yes,
Check, I did
yes.
that.
You play instruments,
Yeah.
you go to school, you do some theater, you do some drama, like you kind of figure out what you like. And I think growing up around then, I always knew that I wanted to do something more than just being stuck in that kind of stereotype of what I was allowed to do. Because I think when I was growing up there, a lot of what the mindset that I had from the way I was brought up, the schooling that I went through was very much like, again, another cliche. You be a doctor,
right?
You be a lawyer. And anything apart from that is just known to be harder, right? But I always knew back then, I think I was exposed and I watched a lot of Disney Channel growing up. So, Hannah Montana, like someone with a regular life, just doing something else on the side and just finding so much like fulfillment from that. For some reason, when I was like 12, was really inspiring. So I think I spent a lot of time just basically trying to lean more into like music, because I did really enjoy those piano classes when I was growing up. Lean more into dance. I did they don't have a lot of dance in Malaysia that's not ballet and those type of more traditional studio dancing. So I did aerobics. That was a little bit of my exposure to it.
What's it like, aerobics? Like actual workout?
Yeah, kind of like Zumba-ish, those those tapes, you watch those tapes and then they would teach you like the choreography, and they would teach you like these little dances, like little Zumba moves, and that was just kind of like how I used to express it back then. And then I just know that I wanted to do more and more, because I was really exposing myself when I was growing up. Like a lot of the really popular pop artists that I was listening to at the time, like my first concert was Gwen Stefani, and I was like,
gosh,
something about this music and something about this atmosphere just makes me feel so happy. So I found a lot of solace in like the music, in connection to that, in connection to like how that related to me at the time when I was growing up. And then I actually left Malaysia. I went to the UK when I was 15.
That's right.
I went to boarding school for 2.5 years there.
Which part
And
of the UK again?
it's in a small town, but the
Mhm.
broader region is Surrey.
Okay.
So
Not
about
not our
40
Surrey.
not a different Surrey. 40 minutes out of London.
Yeah.
And it was my first time, like, I'm 15, my parents are not here, I'm locked in the house with other 15-year-olds because we're all just people in boarding school.
Yeah.
And I think that's where like a lot of that freedom and a lot of that creativity came out. There was dance there, so I started doing like some classes there, just trying to explore more, like creating even like drawing, illustration, just trying to pour into an outlet of some kind. All that to say, I think when in my time in boarding school, growing up in Malaysia, some form of art has always been my escape from school, I don't know, traditional demands of like what you think you could be growing up. You move to the UK, homesickness, right? So a lot of things that I consumed, things that I like really found solace in was music. It was like TV shows, like So You Think You Can Dance, being exposed to that, just knowing that there's like creative outlets out there. And it really, really wasn't until I moved to Canada. I lived in Toronto in 2016 that I actually committed to start dancing.
Okay.
Because I was kind of like, maybe I like to sing, maybe I like to play the piano, maybe I just like music, maybe I like drawing, everything. But in 2016, I think dance kind of became the primary form for me. I was living there for a year. I was doing an internship. Won't name the employer, but I did not have a great time. So I just really needed something to do because I was there for a year. It was also the first proper time I was like working a full-time job. I had access to like, now I have my own paycheck. What do I want to do? I literally spent like from opening to closing at a studio called Underground Dance in Toronto. And I would just take any class that was available to me. So just anything, but really like hip hop, dance hall, jazz, contempt, like whatever I could do, I just didn't want to leave. And then from there, I actually just started branching out more and more and more, and then just utilizing that journey to find within dance what speaks to me. So yeah, that's my journey in a nutshell. Hid behind art, listened to music, loved a lot of TV shows that had to do with dance and art and music, and then came to a point where I was old enough to be able to explore what that really meant for myself. Without the confines of like being a teenager in school or being a child at home. And dance was really the outlet that I poured into. Yeah.
I'm curious to know, what do you feel was that? Like, what was it, I guess in the midst of escape, right? Like, what was it filling for you?
I think the ability to be myself, I think, was a really big one. Because growing up too, like I'm an older sister. I think when you're kind of like the eldest daughter, there's a lot of like these expectations on you, unspoken responsibilities culturally as well. And then I think just kind of moving through life with that, a lot of this art for me was a form of the ability to just be who I am. I think that's really why I resonate so much now that I found like street dance. I started doing street dance in 2022 here in Vancouver. I got into it because of Julian, my partner at the time. No, my partner at the time, he had a knee surgery. So he was really rehabbing, and locking and Campbellocking became like a really big space for him to be able to do that. And through that, I also found how much that freestyle, that freedom, and the story of like how all these street dances came to be, especially the story of like Don Campbell, who created the style Campbellocking. It's all about that, like the freedom to express who you are, being yourself, and just knowing that no matter what you bring to the table, it's embraced. It took me, I don't want to say embarrassingly long, to really learn that.
Hmm.
But yeah, it wasn't until my later 20s that I really started finding my identity within
Yeah.
dance and the art. I'm still finding it, but I think that's really how that ended up where I ended up today.
For anyone who might not know about Dawn, could you share a little bit about Campbellocking and Dawn and what he means to you and to the locking community, Campbellocking community?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So the story of Don Campbell, I learned a lot through. There's just been so many, I think, people we've connected across the world, just classes we've taken, but primarily from a lady named Tash. She's based out of Montreal. I think she's one of our
Yes. Shout outs
Canadian
to
OGs.
Tash.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And also a lot through, again, my partner, Julian, who's very dedicated and has done so much like research and learning about this. So I also want to give them shout outs for a lot of the resources that I've listened to and have had. But Don Campbell, he was the creator of Campbellocking. Essentially, his story back then was he was learning how to dance, right? He was an introvert, and a lot of what he wanted to do was to meet people. And his friends would tell him, hey, if you want to meet people, you need to go out, go to parties, like learn how to dance, right? Do that. And through that journey, he really, he was just trying to do a little bit of the robot shuffle, just grooving a little. And then he would be trying to remember what came next, and then he would just stop. And at the time, a lot of the dances back then were dances that just kind of kept going and going and going, right? Like you think of like this type of
Right.
move.
And
like
at the
they
time,
would
we're
just do
talking
it.
like 70s era.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, they would just continuously do it. So to have someone just really like pause and take that space at the time was so revolutionary to the point where like people were like, what is that? What is that lock you're doing? So since then, I think he really was able to just dance like himself. And I think a lot of the beauty of that dance with Campbellocking, a lot of the mannerisms that you do are mannerisms that are so conversational, and they're mannerisms that are also very relatable to the general public, right? So you have pointing where you're literally like pointing at people. You have like wrist roll or like a twirl as if you were like playing with a hat, for example. And I think these types of movements just make it so accessible and conversational as well, that you can find your voice in that style. So yeah, that's a little bit about that, and that's also a little bit about, I think, why I resonate so much with that story.
And so, can you tell me the exact moment where you remember witnessing Campbellocking or being taught it, and you're like, it hit you different from all the other kinds of like styles and dance cultures you were learning at that time?
I definitely haven't learned all styles. I think where I'm at in my journey, I do want to explore more, because I think there's so much value and so much. All these street dance styles, they tie together. They have a very deep rooted history. And if you learn a style and if you learn where it comes from, then you kind of learn the journey of dance and music through like the 70s until today, right? And again, I learned so much from other people, because a lot of this information that I have is also just things that people who love this dance, who love this music, who love this art so much, just are willing to pass down and share if you just stay curious. But the exact moment I remember, I want to say the first memory I have of it was at this battle that Loxim, like Leia Loxim, had
Oh
in
my God,
2022
yes, her.
November.
Yes.
It was called Get Lucky.
Okay.
It was just like, it was my first battle ever. It was a jam that was held at the Korean Cultural Center. So it was like literally just a cultural center, a battle, some lights, and there was a live band.
Sick.
I remember when I went into that prelim, I already was like, it's my first battle, like whatever. I'm nervous, probably not gonna pass, just gonna do the thing. But I realized from that battle, when I was talking to people, because it's very obvious when you're nervous in freestyle, you can't really hide, because there's a lot of just body mannerisms that just kind of show like, oh, you're nervous. A lot of like advice and people who kind of came up to me at the time really were able to say like, hey, there's no expectation of this dance of you, right? Like battling is a part of the culture and a part of what we participate in. But there's so much beauty to it that comes, and like the outcome, I suppose, of just like passing, making it through is not the only thing that you should be thinking about, right? The fact that you're here and you're showing up and you're doing this is really what we're all here trying to embrace. And I remember that being the turning point for me, because as someone coming from the choreography space a lot, I think there's always this idea where you have to feel like you know the choreo and the moves, and you have to be polished to a certain extent, because it's really easy if you're dancing in a group and everyone's doing the same choreography to be like, oh, I messed up. Like I can see I look different.
Right.
And then to come into a jam where everyone's telling you being different is cool. Just do your thing.
Yeah.
Right? There's no expectation. It's your first one. You'll grow, you'll figure it out, you'll learn. And that's what really like keeps me, I think, in wanting to share that with other people too. Because even since 2022, when that formative moment happened for me, there's been so many people who've come into the community since, where I've been able to kind of also share that back to them. So I think that has been another formative moment for me, where it's just kind of like somebody gave that wisdom to me, and kind of like circle of life almost. Like now I can share that with other people. I think it's just really nice, and it just really develops your relationship as people together, because in a setting like a battle, you just understand that no matter how many times you've done it, you're always thinking about something, right? And you just want to embrace it, be yourself. Yeah.
I'd love to know, as someone with an international perspective from having lived and traveled to so many other places in the world, where do you think Vancouver sits within arts and culture in the global context right now? What do you think we're doing well? What do you think in what ways do you think we have still yet to grow based on what you've experienced elsewhere?
Yeah, no, I think Vancouver for me is always the place where I've learned how to find myself. So I think it always has that special place in my heart. But since I started just being more in the street dance community in 2022, I've been very fortunate enough to be able to travel, whether it's like to Montreal for Jack of All Trades, that's Jote Festival, to Toronto for a jam like Crystallize, which is a Campbellocking and whacking jam put on by funky facilitators, Ice Misto, who was just a guest on the show.
Yes, shout outs.
So one for the city in Edmonton, also different events like across Southeast Asia. I think with Vancouver, what we have that's so special that I always have to remind myself not to take for granted is our community, for the most part, is quite tightly knit. I remember when we were having a session in Manila and just talking to some people who were there, and some of them commuted 4 hours one way to be there, right? Manila traffic's one thing.
Yeah.
But like 4 hours one way, 4 hours back, that's like driving to Kelowna like every 2
Yeah,
days.
that's past Seattle, fam. That's crazy.
Yeah, and we're talking like just constantly, right? And it just kind of put it into perspective for me, like, wow, I'm so grateful that we have a space like Robson Square, where it's really just a community area where no matter what you do, maybe you're there for rehearsal, maybe you're there to practice, maybe you're having a bad day, you just want to freestyle, maybe you're there for session, right? It's a space that embraces you, and it's a space where you see a lot of familiar faces and familiarity, and you feel safe. It's very hard to actually feel like I'm an artist and I feel safe in a public space where people are walking through and everybody's watching me. But for some reason, we have that magical place there, and a mutual kind of understanding that that's where we all just go to grow our craft and to share with others. That to me in Vancouver is very, very something that I have to remind myself not to take for granted very often. So I think kind of like what I love about that is the tight-knitness and the access that we have to something so centralized. I think what we could grow in, I feel like I would always just encourage people to travel, seek knowledge, right? Like there's a lot of styles that we're doing in street dance where the history and the culture isn't rooted in Vancouver. So you won't really get the full perspective until you go broader and you seek it out from pioneers, from OGs. And again, something to be thankful about is a lot of them in some of the more recent, like kind of street dances, whether it's like hip hop and things like that, the OGs are still alive. And it's just really cool to be able to just kind of listen to their stories and take their class, hear what they have to say. So I think that's something that in Vancouver we just don't have because a lot of the dances weren't born here. So traveling and seeking that, I think, will really enrich individual street dancers who are committed to their craft and just trying to grow.
That whole trip that people do, whether it's like going down to California or going down to New York to learn from the pioneers and the OGs, that's what I call like paying the pilgrimage. And that, or like the other context of doing that is like if you are an immigrant or you were second generation born here and you go back to your motherland, that pilgrimage as well. It's like you come back, you're not the same because you've now understood like the context of everything that like you've been exposed to, whether it from like my Filipino culture, it's going to be like the food, the mannerisms, why my parents say certain things, to then going there and having this like ancestral decolonial pilgrimage journey and just being like, whoa. And it's in the same way relating to like, you know, if you've been learning about listening to hip hop music and studying hip hop dances, to then go to New York and feel the streets and feel the pulse of the city and hear the music out loud, like, or go to the clubs. It's, you come back different.
I think that's like a really big thing for me too that I realized, because when I started doing like Campbellocking, it was around 2022. It was after the passing of Don Campbell, the creator, and so I never got to learn from him. I never got to meet him. I never got to speak to him, and I think that's always going to be a void that we won't be able to fill. And that's why I think it's important to ask questions, stay curious, to with other people who have learned from him, other people who have learned from other OGs, right? And what was that like? And so I encourage, I think, for everyone here who's really interested, especially like newer generation street dancers, to seek that out. Don't be shy to reach out, to travel, to really like learn where a lot of this comes from. And don't take it for granted that you have the opportunity to do that. And then I'll throw in a shout out in here because why not? We're doing shout outs.
Yeah, always, all day, every day.
I think June 13, 14, 15 is Battle Zone. One of the judges coming here is Buddha Stretch. Kim Sato, who I mentioned before, an OG in the Vancouver community, is also one of the judges. And so they'll also be offering workshops. It's a really great place because someone in our community is willing to bring OGs out to be able to teach and share this knowledge. So I would highly encourage, you know, if you really resonate with this message and you feel like you want to seek that knowledge, it's coming here as well. So we should be thankful that people also want to bring that to us and also not take that for granted.
I'd love to know, what are you learning right now about being a community builder?
I'm learning I'm learning a lot of things.
Yes. It doesn't stop, by the way.
I will say, in my journey.
Yeah.
I think a big one for me in my personal journey as well is just learning how to, you know, if we're doing therapy time here, not take things too personally. I think when you're kind of existing as an individual contributor anywhere versus being a team player or a community member, there's so much, I think, of that compromise and the push and pull that kind of happens with decisions you make, with things you do, with relationships you have and friendships you build. So I'm really learning how to see things kind of in the bigger picture. Because I still feel like in this community, I'm fairly new. I'm still trying to figure out what is it I want to do? How do I want to build that? How do I want to contribute to kind of growing it bigger and bigger? And a lot of it is just the ability to see myself not as like but just as a part of something larger.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm working on mentality wise. I think in terms of like physical things, just being able to also just talk to more people, kind of get a pulse of like, where's everyone at? Like if we're speaking about like, you know, the locking community, like what are people hoping for? Like, are you wanting battles, jams, workshops? Like I think as someone who likes the event management side of things, it's always just nice to get a pulse on like, where's everyone at in their growth journey? What do you think would be beneficial if we were to do in Vancouver? Right? Because here we have a lot of battles, which is great. I think it's like awesome exposure and just like good experience for dancers. But just being able to ask those questions where it's like, are battles serving you right now? Like maybe you just want to have a party. Like maybe we just want to have fun, you know, go to morning disco, have a drink at 11 a.m.
Yeah.
Party it up. Sometimes that's what you need, right?
Yeah.
Maybe people are feeling like they want to have a workshop, they want to learn from someone, right? And then with ladies, like something like Ladies First, last year, we were able to bring out really cool judges. We had Tatiana from New York. She really shared so much of like house dance from like the culture where she came from and just her knowledge and all of her history. This year for our judging panel, we also brought like Lady C. She's been all around the globe, and she offered so much to our community, and that really inspired people. Because you can kind of tell, like they take workshops, and all of a sudden you're like, "Wow, session this week has 20 people, and last week there was less people." Like there's like a new wave of inspiration. So just being able to be a good community member and just talking to people, knowing what people need, knowing what they would like to see here in Vancouver, and then just being able to use resources, connections, just things like that to make that happen.
Yes.
So I'm working on doing that more.
Aside from dance, like personally, creatively, in what ways do you want to grow this year?
Yeah, I'm really looking to expand, I think, my knowledge of street dance in general, because I think like dance is such a big part of like the culture of street dance, but it's not the only part, right? I think as like event hosts, I think learning what makes a good host, learning what makes you a good party starter, facilitator, even saying, MC, I think is like something that's very important to me to try to learn how to develop and seek that knowledge. I think being able to also learn more about different music and like how the journey of music just kind of shaped the dance that we do today as well. Because even though I do a style that's dance to a lot of traditional, more like 70s music, James Brown, like that era, funk. A lot of what I listen to on a day-to-day isn't that, right? So being able to explore more music and what that means to me and how that kind of shapes my art and my dance as well is something that I want to look more into. What does that mean? I don't know. Early stages, baby stages. But I think diving more into that like party facilitation, hosting, and also diving more into like street dance culture outside of just the physical dance itself. I think will really just help me round out a lot of my experience and just give me more to share back.
I love that.
So that's where I'm at.
Wow. This hour has gone by. Dance, 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 dance. So much about dance. Now we're going into rapid fire fun.
Okay. Let's do it.
You ready? Okay, take a deep breath. Okay, don't overthink.
Okay.
First thing that comes to your mind. If you need to expand a little on the answer, we can do that. But just yes, don't overthink. Ready? One artist, living or past, that you love to makan with.
Gwen Stefani.
Oh.
For some reason, that was my first concert, like I mentioned.
Yes.
For some reason, I'm also revisiting her music.
Oh, I love that.
Like today. So it's a fresh journey. So I think it would be really cool.
Which era of Gwen Stefani are you diving into?
Not No Doubt yet. More of the era of like, because the concert that I went to was Sweet Escape.
Okay.
So a lot of like that.
That era.
It's sounds that I'm revisiting in my brain. It's very nostalgic.
I love that.
So her right now.
When home in KL, go to Malay street food.
So cliche. Nasi lemak is so good. It's what I take everyone to eat when we're there. There's like an awesome place near, like in my neighborhood called Village Park. It's like world famous nasi lemak.
What is it for people who don't know?
It's like coconut rice. You got like chicken doused in curry. There's sambal. There's cucumber. There's nuts. It's a medley of flavors.
Hungry now.
The best.
A teaching or a quote from a mentor that you'll never forget.
I guess this is like, again, I think going back to like locking and that journey, something that it always comes up, which is like what Dawn used to say is, nobody can beat you at being you. So I'm trying to embrace that every day. I think I live many lives when I go to work, when I'm a daughter with my family, when I'm a friend, when I'm a community member. And it's just nice to just remember to embrace who I am in every setting and not have to like, put on a face for it. So yeah.
Fave DJ right now in Vancity.
So many as well. I think Rita is awesome. We hired her at the last two Ladies First, which is great. We also have Ladies First DJ Club, who we also hired, so AJ and Emma. And also, of course, Flip Out. I think like on Sunday, it really showed how much of a party vibe like he really brought. And Nina. I know I shouted like a billion of them, but I think it's just super cool because they're so active in our community that you get to listen to what they have to play and what they have to say like all the time. So
yes,
all of them.
Love it. Okay, my last one. Finish this sentence. I feel most powerful when?
I feel most powerful when I am free of my limiting beliefs of myself. I think that's a big thing I'm working on now. Just, doing more events, putting yourself out there. I think the nature of it is you're just letting yourself be perceived all the time.
This is true.
Whether as a dancer, as an artist, as an organizer, like whatever you do, there's always that courage and that step you have to take to be like, I'm going to do this, right? I'm putting this out into the world. And I feel so much power in that. But see, this is why I love Ladies First. Sometimes I think like, I do feel a little bit of that like hesitation and just feeling like maybe I should take a step back. Maybe I should just
the
like
imposter syndrome.
Yeah, a lot of that. And when I'm free of that and when I'm surrounded by the right people and when I'm driven by like the mission of like the things I'm doing, I do find that I am able to put that to the side a lot more. So yeah, I'm most powerful when I feel free, and that's really enabled by the people around me and just the belief and the purpose of what we're trying to do.
Yes. And also your own self-determination.
Yes. Willpower.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, this has been such a good conversation as I knew it was gonna be. You were a bit nervous. You're like, I've never done a podcast before, but
yeah,
we made it on the other side.
We did.
You shared so much of your experiences, your perspective, and what's lighting you up right now. And I'm very, very appreciative of your time, of you being able to spend, passing down what you've learned onto also the next generation and whoever else is listening. I want to give a big shout outs to everyone who's tuned into the live stream, everyone who's watching the replay after. We really appreciate you. If anyone out there is a musician, a dancer, an artist, or a creative based here in Vancity, and you would like the opportunity for perhaps season 5 to sit down in the seat and have a conversation with me, or also maybe one of our other guest interviewers, please scan the QR code you'll see on the edited version of this video and fill out the form. And who knows, this could be you eating snacks, hanging out, giving all the shout outs.
Yes, we love shout outs. What a way to cap off season 4.
Yes. But not without you giving the final shout out of your own Instagram handle /and/or website /and/or other internet presences.
Follow. There's so many. Ladies First YVR.
We have that.
Olivia Boon.
Thank
Boon.
Yes.
Locking in Vancity. KV Muse. Jam and Cameron. Kazimi Houdini.
_Kazimi _Houdini.
See you on Instagram. Vancity Beam.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. We're going to end this live stream now. I think I've said everything I needed to say. Oh yes. Shout outs to TELUS STORYHIVE for powering today's episode. I am your host, Kazi. This is Olivia Boon. Shout outs to Jam and Cameron on the live stream. To Katria, aka Muse, who's given all the energy and support and hilarious facial expressions I see behind the light. Yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been StoryHive on Location Vancouver with Beats, Eats, and more! The final one! Yeah!